Okay. All right. Nanette, have you reached out to any of the students in the design channel?
No, I have not.
I think a few people might be willing to put you through. I mean, and it might be better if a fellow student explains it to you so you get it.
Okay. Because right now I'm in the last stage of trying to make the grids for my actors I chose. And the mirror keeps like freezing up. It's only giving me this hand. It's not letting me move this template I was trying to use. So I think I'm just gonna not use one of their templates. Like I have everything I think I need. I just have to get it into the grid.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So if somebody wants to tell me what template or what grid, I would be so grateful to get this behind me so I can move forward.
All right. All right. I hope someone reaches out to
Do you
you.
have do you have anyone that's really good, like a student that could be like a student tutor
Well,
that you could hook me up
I
with?
saw a few, but right now I can't really, I can't really say, I don't really have their names in mind at the moment. Yeah, but I can
Okay.
check and get back to you,
Okay.
okay?
Okay. Well,
All right.
I don't want to take over your time, but what does it mean when the hand keeps coming up and not the cursor on the
Yeah,
mirror?
once you see the hand, just double tap on your mirror board. It should change to the arrow cursor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself again.
All right. All right.
But I am listening to your instruction.
Okay.
So I have it in my head. Am I allowed to do that even though I'm not in this
Yeah, it's fine.
in this week yet?
It's all right.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Nice to hear from you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we'll just go right into what week 6 is talking about. So basically it's for week 5, we stopped at you coming up with sketches that shows the features that you want to have on your online platform. And of course, sketches are very, very basic. And while it is an example of a low fidelity prototype, for week 6, you are to come up with another low fidelity prototype. Some might call it a mid fidelity prototype, but this time you're doing it on Figma. You're doing both the lo-fi and the hi-fi on Figma. Okay. I think that's the difference between this and the week 5. The week 5 was very basic sketch or either in balsamic. All right. So we've gone through the slides. We know what high fidelity prototypes are, and for week 6, basically, I would like to say that most of how do I put this? Your design coming out good largely depends on how much practice you've put in. I've seen some designs, and because it was the first time they were maybe the first time they were trying to we were designing something on that scale, a high fidelity prototype, it didn't look as polished as it would be, which is fine. It's your first design. But with constant practice, you're going to definitely improve. Okay. So like we talked about earlier, elements that will make your high fidelity prototype look good are the colors, typography, spacing, and other things like probably images that you're using and icons. Okay. We are going to look at some designs that have already been submitted as well. Okay, and sort of talk about them briefly. But before we do that, I don't know if Soph wants to take you guys on Figma Basics. I don't know if are you ready, Soph, or should I go on?
Yeah, but I think you can go through the slides, then I can take them through
The slides. All right.
So this is what I will figure.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So of course you have your colors. for the designs I've seen so far, there were lots of color mismatch here and there, probably because a number of them did not use color mixing tools, like was mentioned in the slide. Okay, so there were bad color combinations going on. They didn't have good contrast as well. So if you use tools like colors and material design color, they will help you actually match your colors much better. You select a primary color and then you move on to create shades from your primary color, and then select a very distinctive secondary color to sort of accentuate your design. Okay, so it's important to use colors correctly. It's also important to use your spacing correctly. Okay, I saw lots of mostly texts being very close together. Line heights were not giving breathing room to the text, and issues like that. Okay, but we'll go over these when going through Figma Basics with you guys. Okay, so spacing rules. The spatial system is a set of rules of how to add measure, size, and space to your designs. Okay, so most designers use the 8-point grid system, but it's not like a standard. But because it is sort of a multiple number, it's easy to increment, or it's easy to increase or decrease it and still have your design elements on Figma still look good enough, still look uniform, so to speak. Okay, so it's most widely used because it is divisible by 4 and 2, and it makes resizing or scaling elements across devices much easier. So when you use the 8-point grid system, it sort of boxes the design elements that you have. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show, but hopefully later I'll send an example of how it was used in a design. Okay. So it helps you scale elements. Another issue I noticed was that some of the elements on the designs that have been submitted were not scaled properly, especially the icons. They were either flattened or they were just not in alignment with the rest of the icons, with the rest of the icon family that was used on the design. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so you can see the spatial system being used here. This is 20, 24, 20, 34, 34, and it just sort of looks not good at all because the space between each of the elements is not looking all right. And over by the right, it has more of the 8-point spatial system. And this is 24, 16, 32, 32. So it sort of adds, not a sort of, it actually adds much better balance if you're sizing your elements, your picture, your button, your icons, if you're putting them into frames that have that is a multiple of 8. Okay, so this is, okay, let me say this is a button, and of course it's 32, so that's 8 times 3. Okay, 8 times 4, sorry. Yeah, so same thing is happening for here, and then same thing here, same thing here. So it adds that rhythm to your design if you're using increments of 8. Okay, so we mentioned padding as well. Padding refers to the space between UI elements. It can be measured both vertically and horizontally. To create good UI that looks aesthetically pleasing, it's advisable to use paddings in increments of the base unit. So you will most likely encounter this if you, let me say, for example, let me use this example. Let me open, I hope I can do that here. Give me a minute. So I want to open up, can everybody see the, I've forgotten what this is called, by this right side here. I don't know, can everybody see it or is it just me?
Yeah, we can see it. It's
Yeah,
called the inspect panel.
yes,
You
inspect
can see
panel.
it. I can see it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you notice how this looks quite similar to this. So if I select an element, for example, here, right, and you notice how there's some sort of change. I selected this button at the top, by the way. So you notice how this is the main content right here. This icon here and the share here. It's taking the place of this hello world here, and it's the main content. So it has a width of 59.287 and a height of 15 pixels. And you see the padding that is happening around it. So the padding is the space around the contents, which is this two elements here. So it has a top padding of 9, it has a bottom padding of 10, a left padding of 12, and a right padding of 16. Okay, so that's how, that's just a quick example of how padding affects your design. If you go into front-end development, you will be using it a lot when you're styling your elements in CSS or even in line with the HTML. Okay, so we move on to typography. Typography is a very, very important part of your high fidelity design. In fact, if you don't get your typography correctly, chances are that no matter how beautiful or no matter how pleasing your design looks, you still wouldn't hit the mark because your typography is very off. Okay, so a good typography holds the reader's attention, it helps convey information faster, and it ensures legibility of the copy. I mean, text is almost everywhere around us. You pick up a newspaper, you pick up your phone, you're at a supermarket, text helps describe things a lot. And if this text were not written in a way that you can read them, you wouldn't look at them twice. So that's how important typography really is to your design. So copy refers to the text that appears on the user interface. It's a common word in the design among designers. I think we spoke about this earlier when we were going through design elements in detail. So you might hear copy a lot instead of text. It just refers to body of text on whatever element it is, whether it's a title, whether it's a headline, whether it's a button or a label. Okay, it's good practice to have your copy content first before designing. That will help you know how to utilize space, and it just helps you know the volume of text you're going to have in your design, how much to put, how much to take away, and whether to shorten, where to shorten, and where not to shorten the text, and issues like that. Next, you have alignment. Yes, I noticed a lot of alignment issues as well. We'll be going over that as well. We'll be talking about that as well, and the shortcuts and tools you can use to ensure that you have good alignment on your Figma design. Okay, so this is, everything here is left aligned. Everything here is left aligned as well. So notice the balance it has, because everything sort of is on a single line, except this image, by the way. But if you're looking at the text, you can notice that every one of them runs through one straight line, and it's easier on the eye that way. Like I said, we'll talk more about this when we're going through Figma Basics. Line height as well. As a designer, we've talked about training our design eye. And I don't know how many of you have been looking at apps that you're using every day and noticing how the typography on those apps are. You know, the spacing between the copy, the spacing between the elements, the picture, the text field, and all that. Okay. For typography, line height is the spacing it has. It's what helps it breathe. If your text is not breathing, it's going to look very foggy on the eyes of whoever is reading it. So when training your design eye, it's important that you look at text that are already on design products, whether it's a book, whether it's a magazine. Notice how text looks on these products and try to replicate that on your own design. So the more you try to replicate it when practicing, you know, the better you are going to get in understanding when you need more space between your text and when you need lesser space, depending on what font size or what font weight or what font you're using. Okay, because I noticed that a lot of people didn't use a good value for their line height, and everything was sort of, I couldn't tell the first sentence from the second sentence, and you know, issues like that. Okay, and then there is contrast as well. It was a problem as well. So good contrast just basically helps the person reading.
Yeah,
Good contrast basically just helps the person reading to, you know, be able to see things much more clearly. You don't want them using a magnifying glass or having to go into a dark room or go into the sun before they can see what is on your design. So for example, you shouldn't place black text on a purple background. Those are two dark colors. Okay, and if you have this on your app, it's going to be very difficult reading. And whoever opens your app and sees text like that, a black text on a purple background or a black text on a red background, they will immediately leave your platform. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but different design platforms require different rules. So for example, you might see a black text on a red background in, say, a magazine, and it will work. But when you bring it to a digital screen, it might not work. Okay, so as a designer, these are the things you should take into consideration when coming up with your high fidelity prototypes or, you know, signing off on your final design. So you notice how this low contrast is not very visible on the yellow background because they are both very light colors. And notice how this yellow one immediately stands out from the dark blue background. The color tools will, of course, help you ensure that you have good contrast, and as well, this tools here, Contrast Checker and also webaim.org. I don't know if those who submitted their high fidelity prototypes use these tools, because I'm sure if they did, they wouldn't have made some contrast mistakes that they made. But anyway, moving on. So tips and tools to help you your typography: understand hierarchy and spacing. These are some tools to help you do that. Learn to choose and pair fonts, maximum of 2 fonts. So these are some tools to help you do that. Of course, you just need to go, or you just need to Google, just type type.io into the address bar, or excuse me, or Google fonts, and it'll take you to, you know, places, it'll take you to the websites where you can pair fonts. The website will pair this font for you by itself. So you wouldn't need to worry about whether fonts you're pairing work well together. Okay. In later stages, when you've gained more experience designing, then you can be more comfortable pairing fonts by yourself. So the next one says, consider the mood your product infers or creates. So if your product is a fun product, you're going to want to use a fun font. If it's a serious product, let's say a newspaper website or a newspaper app, you're going to use a more serious font, most likely a serif font. because I mean, it's the news and people mean business when they want to read the news. Okay, if it's a kids website or kids app, you're going to use something quite playful, you know, and it goes on and on like that. Less is more. So when you have your copy, when you have your content or your copy, it's most times it can be broken down into a much more simple form. So less is more basically means if you can have a lesser volume of copy, please have a lesser volume of copy. Because let's face it, a lot of people don't really like reading on screen. Okay, they come to your product and they are looking for something immediately. So they will most likely scan. If you've read the book, Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, he explained this very well. They come to your platform, they come to your app, they come to your website, and they are scanning quickly as they can. If they can't find what they are looking for, they would leave and, you know, try to get it from somewhere else. So it's important to have less but very direct copy on your website so that when someone lands on your product, they can easily see what you're offering and then they can make decisions. And then the last one is practice. You can never do so much practice. You need to practice every day. Google design challenges that you can practice on. Daily design challenges. I think there are a bunch of them out there. Just type it on Google and you know you get a variety of options to choose from. And like I said, with Figma, you need to practice. As you're practicing, you're getting much better. You're learning more about the tool, and you know you're becoming more skillful at using it. Next, we have iconography. So icons are simple design elements that are easily recognizable and understood. They help save space, help users navigate through your products. They can help add a creative touch and personality, and they can transcend language barriers. Okay, so icons, a lot of people are using icons, yes, but you know, they weren't looking so good. They went from for some, the icons were not from the same family. So it just looked all, it didn't look uniform. It didn't look coherent. It didn't look like it fit in the design because it's sisters. I mean, by sisters, I mean it's fellow icons. You know, they were not looking the same at all. So they just didn't look like they belonged in that design. All right. So things to consider when using icon, they should have consistent style across your design. I just finished talking about that. They must be widely understood. So use icons when you're starting out, ensure that you use icons that is universally understood. When I see a camera icon, I know it's a camera. I know if I click on it, I should expect to either take a picture or upload a picture. When I see an alarm clock, I know when I click on it, I should be able to set an alarm and so on like that. Okay, they can be creative but functional too. Don't use conflicting icons together. For example, a heart and a star. And the 5-second rule is a good way to test your icons. If it takes more than 5 seconds to get it correctly, it should be changed. This is more into usability testing. If a user comes on your platform and you have a weird icon, you know, and they don't understand what it is within 5 seconds, then you need to change that icon. You don't need to explain to them that, hey, that icon, that is what it does. No, if they don't get it, then there's a problem. All right, so moving on, things to consider when using icons. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't assume that whatever new icon that you're going to have on your design is going to be understood. Don't bring in new icons into your platform just because you want to be creative. First of all, put your user at the heart of whatever you're doing. Will your user understand this icon? Okay, there are hundreds, there are thousands of icons out there, but you notice that only very few of these icons are used because they generally convey the same meaning across platforms. When a user sees this icon on platform A and then goes on platform B and sees the same icon, that user will automatically understand that, okay, hey, this is what this does. I've seen this somewhere before and I recognize it. Okay, so don't reinvent the wheel. Don't come up with new ideas for your icon. Use icon labels where appropriate to clarify the icon's functionality. So in case you have an icon that wouldn't really be understood, even though it is widely used, okay, it's always a good practice to include a label. I think iOS does this much very well. Okay, so the best icon file format is the SVG, as they allow for good scalability and editing. So when downloading icons, always download them in the SVG format. You would have the option of downloading them in either a PNG or JPG format, especially for free icons. Yeah, but always try to look for the SVG version of that icon. And good sources for icons are the ones I've mentioned below here: the Noun Project, Icons 8, and flaticon.com. Okay. So we move on to the iOS and Android UI guidelines. Okay, I think this is pretty much explanatory, so I wouldn't really dwell on this. No, I wouldn't really dwell on this, but I'll just mention that most times designers always have the issue of, oh, do I design like Apple if I'm developing an Apple design? Let me rephrase that. So if a designer is designing for an Apple application, you know, they'll always think, oh, do I need to follow Apple's guidelines? No, you don't need to follow Apple's guidelines or the Android guidelines, as long as your design is usable, as long as it's useful to the users at the end of the day, and you're following general design standards, then your design is good to go. But then if you want to go ahead and implement using Android or iOS guidelines, that's also fine. There are templates, there are tools, there are mockups on Figma as well. Sophisticated will still walk you through briefly on those ones as well. All right, so I think that's that with the high fidelity and iOS Android guidelines. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box as well. Okay, Ariel says, is there a resource that talks about typography types for what you are designed for reference? Ariel, I don't think I understand. Do you mean, are there resources that that like helps you, or that like teaches you about the platform you're designing or what product you're designing? I don't think I quite understood your
Can
question.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go on.
What I was saying was, because you said there was certain fonts for like fun fonts, some for like fonts you use for children.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if there was like a reference as to like to go back and be like, okay, I could pick this font because I'm doing, like, for instance, with this project, it's more of like a charitable thing. So there has to, like, is there like a resource that could tell you like this is the best font for this type of app you're designing? That's basically what I meant to say.
Oh, okay. Well, personally, I don't know if there's one. I generally just try to understand the mood of what I'm designing and then try to look at what other platforms, other similar products have used, you know, and then try to come up with and try to pick a font for mine based off of what a lot of other people or a lot of other products have on theirs. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So to add to that, there's also there's a way to have to find funds. If you want to get funds that can show fun, can show seriousness. So there are font types. I think in the typography phase, that was touched. There are serifs. We have serifs and we have sans serifs, and um, and in the if you go to Google, you just type if you type fonts like FUN fonts, you easily see a lot of fonts. Some are free, some are paid for that you can use for your project. But if you are using them for personal projects, you can easily get one that you can use. So you can pick from there and use them for your designs. That's one way to find it. Or just like Charles mentioned, you can go to Google Fonts and you pick one that um, identifies what you are trying to design. So there are fonts that you see that talks about that people that luxury brands use. So those fonts are very more like luxurious fonts, right? Like Gucci, Versace. If you look at their fonts, they are almost similar. So those are luxury fonts. So whatever you are designing for, you can go to Google and find exactly what you need.
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
all right. Thank you, Soph. So, let me see another question. Can we resubmit for higher grade? Yes, Claire, you can always resubmit, please. Can we see an example of the low fidelity and high fidelity designs? Yes, I will be showing that afterwards, because I'm going to end the call in like once I'm done taking the questions, because we have about 3 minutes left. So I'll end the call and we'll rejoin again, please. Okay. So Marlo says, I have a question for the task of week 7. Okay, I'll still come to that. Okay. Okay, so okay, the remaining questions are regarding week 7. So when we come back, Soph will just, briefly take us through Figma Basics. We'll look at some designs that have been submitted as well, and then we'll move on to talk briefly about the week 7 task. Okay, so once I end the call, please join back using the link that is in Slack. All right. Okay, 1 minute. Are there specific examples for me to improve my prototype with iconography and native design elements? I was giving this specific feedback, but not sure what kind of improvement should be made. Okay, Dianik, I think we might look at your design as well, but let's all rejoin the call, okay? And we'll continue from there. So see you in like a minute.
Charles,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so if you're on this call and you've submitted
your
your,
volume is low, Charles.
how
Very
is
low.
it? How is it now?
You're still low.
Still low. Oh, okay. Give me a minute. Let me try to. How is now? Is it better? Or is it?
But I don't know about that, right? I barely can hear you.
Can everyone hear me, please? Like, what's my voice?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. See, okay. So, all right. So, do we have people on the call that have submitted their week 6 assignments, the Figma assignments on the call? Please just signify so I can look for yours and we go through it together. Okay, Claire. Okay. All right. Let me open that from here. Okay, so let me pick Claire's. Okay. So what was my comment on yours? Okay. Iconography for Claire, iconography, color, typography. Let's quickly go through that. So I don't know, so do you want to continue or should I go on?
I wanted to take them through. So instead of going through their work one by one, I think it would be better to go through Figma as a whole,
Okay.
and they can, as we are going through them, they can easily see where their work fell short, and they can take
All right.
corrections
Yeah.
from there.
We can also as well have singular calls with them later on after the call.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to share your screen to continue?
Yeah, I'll be sharing my screen.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, you can host disabled participants screen sharing.
Okay, you can try now.
Okay, that works now. Share my screen in a bit. So we are going to move. We're going to understand what it means to work with Figma. I know most of you have done your assignments, your tasks in Figma, and you know the basic things that you can do. But I want to start from here. I want to start from this. So when you open your Figma file, let's say figma.com, and you are logged in, you will face with something like this, where it shows all your works and your recent works. And you have the drafts, you have the community, and if you're in any team to show up here. So there's something I want to show that is very important, and that's about fonts. So sometimes on fonts, except you're using Google Fonts, which you can find in all Google Fonts in Figma. If you want to use other fonts that are not in Figma, you can easily get them by downloading a font installer. So Figma has this font installer. So when you go to settings, if you click on your avatar right here, just when you logged into Figma, you see community profile, eternal profile, and till you get to settings. When you click on the settings, you see your name, your email, password, and every other thing. Then if you scroll up or scroll down, you're going to see download installer to enable local fonts. So mine is showing download on installer to disable local fonts because I have it already downloaded. So you have to click here to enable local fonts. So all the fonts that you have in your system will be automatically be opened in Figma. So when you are working, you can select that font and it will be easier for you to use them. So this is one key thing that I want all of us to know, so that it will be easier for us to work with fonts that we downloaded off the internet. So that being said, if you hover on your draft, you can see this plus icon. So this plus icon creates a new file. So we're going to create a new file, a new design file, and you can also browse templates from here. So these are these are design templates, these are Figma. For design templates, you have iPhone, desktop. You can practically choose from the community different files that you have there, right? And yeah, so I'm not going to select this. I'm going to just click this plus right away and select this design file. So it opens up an untitled design file for me. So we're going to do something. We're going to go to Google. We're going to select something because I believe in um, learning by doing, practicing. Just like you saw in the slide, copying is the best way of learning fast. So I'm going to redesign this on Figma within some few minutes so that we can see as as I'm resigning. I hope everyone can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay. So as we are redesigning, we are going to be seeing the things. I'll be explaining some things that I'm doing,
The image is a bit
and we understand.
is a bit low
Yeah,
quality.
the design is blurred. Yeah, it's blurred. Let me get another image. Let me see one that's clear. Uh, they are reducing qualities. Let's look for one that is uh, clear. So if you once we get one, I just went off the internet to type photography application. So trying to
See,
let's
see,
just take this
see if you can get
and
one
replicate
regarding donation.
donation, right?
Yeah.
So so let's say you want to replicate something on donation. So this is a site called dribble.com. So Dribble, we have Behance, we have Pinterest. Those are where you can get inspiration. So let's see, mission application. So let's see this. This is basically for fundraising. So you just copy this image. So what I did is I clicked, I copy this image, I go to Figma, and I paste. Right. So this is clear. Now we're going to replicate one or two screens. And while doing that, we're going to learn the basic things that we can use to do the design and how to make our design to look neat, appealing, aesthetically pleasing. So we're going to start with the first screen. So this is the home screen. And there are some elements that is here. So we're going to dissect those elements before designing. Now we have this. This is called the menu button. So this is not just like Charles mentioned in the slide. This is not a generally known icon. So this is not an icon that is universally accepted. But yeah, because we already know we are in the field, we know that this is a home button. But this is a bell icon, and we know that bell icon is for notification. So yeah, this notification. And these icons are labeled, so you already know what it is for. We have the search bar. We have the search bar. here. You have a card here that talks about that can help you to start result from your own forms. We have these icons. So this icon is universally known as the home icon. This looks like a document. This can look like different things. So this is not doesn't have one single meaning. Has different meanings. So this icon needs to be labeled for it to give its full meaning. Although I think it shows here as education, so something similar. So this is the example that he gave on that slide, that you have to make your work very easy to understand. Don't make the users think. Now, this is likely to be a profile, and this is likely to be a certain icon. So these are ones that we already know. But to avoid doubt, to avoid mistake, always label your icons. So without saying much, we're going to start designing this or designing that. So if you want to start designing, you can just click on this frame, or you press F on your keyboard. So I'm going to press F on my keyboard, and it changes my cursor to a plus cursor. And what I'll just do is I'll select the screen I'm designing for. I usually go for an iPhone screen, especially when the developers are developing for cross platforms. Cross platforms mean that they're developing for Android and they're developing for iOS. So if you're developing for Android and iOS, you can always use the iPhone screen. If you're developing for Android, you have the Android here. So these are default um, screen sizes. So this is how your screen size looks no matter the phone you are using. So you can just select one and you move on with it. So let me select iPhone X. So this is the screen that we'll be using. Now there's something that you have to, I will explain. So this is the move tools, right? So if you click on this drop down, you see scale and move. So basically you'll be using move often. Scale has its own function. As we go further, we may see it now, or we may see it later in this course. Now, we have this tool. This tool is a frame tool. We have the slice tool. Basically, you'll be using the frame tool. So let's not bother ourselves with the slice tool for now. Now we have the shape tools. So this is the rectangle by default. We have the lines, we have the arrows, we have the ellipse, we have the polygon, we have the star, and we have a place image here. So these, anyone that you select, let's say you select the line, you can draw out a line here. So we have the pen tool and the pencil tool. So the pencil tool and the pen tool are just for freehand drawing. You don't want a straight line, you want a curve. This is the tool that you use to achieve that. Then you have the text tool. You want to type something, you click on the text tool and you type. Now we have the pan tool. This is the hand. If you click on this hand tool, you can move around your design. Then you have the comments. So if you want to give feedback, you can always click and type feedback. So that's it for this panel. Then over to the right, if you select on, so over to the right, you have the design, the prototype, and the inspect panel. So you have the prototype panel, and the inspect panel, and you have the design panel. So it changes according to what you select. So as you are going through Figma, you understand more about this. Now, we're going to go to designing this. There are icons that you can use. There are easy ways to get icons. There are two ways. You can go to, not only two ways actually, there are so many ways, but one of the ways is going through plugins. So Figma has what you call plugins. and those plugins help your designs to help you to work with Figma faster. So I have so many of them. So if you look at it, you see plugins here. If you don't have any, you won't see anything here. So you see manage plugins and browse plugins. Let me see a question. Okay, manage plugins. So if you click on browse plugins in community, uh, let's see what it opens up for us. So you can see all the plugins that we have in the Figma community, and you can install anyone that you want to work with. Let's say you want for icons, you can just search here and type icons or icon. You can see all the plugins for icons. I have this installed, I have this installed, and this installed. So you can also install anyone that you like using. So, but this particular icon, this particular plugin is the best for me in terms of icons. It's called Iconify. Look at it here, Iconify. So once I open it up, I can look for a a hamburger menu, and a notification bell. So let's say hamburger menu. Okay, let's say hamburger. Oh, it's not showing. Let's say menu. So this is a menu. And select one. You can see this is looking like a hamburger. That's why it's called a hamburger menu. You can select one and you can use it. So let's select this and we import the icon. So if you import the icon, let's import one more icon, which is the bell icon. So you can just type notification and let's select this as notification. Then let's close it off for now. Okay, we may need the search icon here. So just type search and we get an icon that we need. So we don't need to be using images as an icon. So all these icons that we selected are here. This is the search icon. This is the bell icon. And this is the menu icon. Now, there's something important to note, and I think Charles mentioned it. If you select this and you want to change the shape, you want to change the size, and you drag it, you see that you've distorted the size of this particular icon, or you drag it here, you have distorted the size. Now, if you want to get equal proportional changes in all your icons, what you have to do is this. Look at this property panel here. You have the size, the width is 24, the height is 24. There is something like a link here that if you hover on, you see constraint proportions. This shows that you want if you check it, let's say you click it, the width and your height will remain the same or will change in equal proportion. So if you add 2 here, it adds the equivalent of 2 in the other part. So let's say I want to increase it. Once you've clicked on this, you can increase it by saying, let's say 30, both of them increases. Or you can do this. You can select one node. This is a node. And select one node, hold down your shift key and drag. So they don't change, they move together, the vertical, and look at what is happening on the right hand side. You see that it's changing. Look at this property panel, they are changing. So you maintain the same height and the same width, changing in equal proportion. So let's take it back to 24. Yes. Basically, what I normally work with is 24 because I work in multiples of 8. So I use 8 points grid system. Now, for alignment, you can see this particular element here for alignment that is showing up. Now, this, if you click it, watch what it does. It arranges this. They have equal distance, 19 in between them. But for proper alignment, you use this alignment tools here. So these tools align to the left, align horizontal centers, align to the right, align to the top, align vertical, align bottom, and more options. So these options have tidy up, which I just did, distribute vertical spacing and distribute horizontal spacing. So if I want all of them to be the same line, I'll use vertical because they are not aligned vertically. I'll use vertical. They are all in the same line. But that's to explain um, the alignment options. Now, we obviously we cannot cover every single thing on this particular on about every single thing about Figma right now. So you can see we can start working right now. So let's create this first part. So you have this. So another thing that you can also use very well is this panel here, this fill panel. So this fill panel is for colors. Obviously you figured it out. I've seen some of your works, and yeah, you're using good use of color. But this is also an eyedropper tool. So this tool that looks like an eyedropper, obviously, yeah, is for picking colors. So I've selected this whole frame, and it is white. F F F F F. It's white. Now I pick this eyedropper and I sample this color. Now this color is white too. So that means the background is white. Now what I can do is this. I'm using this icon instead of this because this is more acknowledged as a menu icon. So I'll just create a rectangle. By creating a rectangle, you can either click here, get the rectangle, or click R. So these are the shortcuts by your right. So I'll just click R and I'll create a rectangle. Holding Shift is giving me equal proportion. Look at what is happening on the right. I'm clicking the Shift key and it's locking it up. So while holding Shift, I'll select 64. I'll select 64. So 64 vertical, horizontal, and sorry, yeah, and the width, the height and the width. Now I will shut off the fill, or I will make the fill white and give it a stroke. This stroke is not black, so I will get something similar to what they have. Now you may be asking, this place is round, so for you to get a rounded box, you use this corner radius. So for you to get this corner radius, let's say they use around 20. Yeah, so 20 is about right. So this is too big, so we're going to reduce it to 48 and use 10 here. So you can just drag this menu bar inside and you have something similar to what they have. Then use this alignment to make sure that all your elements are in the center. So if you press your Option or Alt key, if you press your Option or Alt key here, you see the distance. So the distance between all of them is 12, 12, 12, and 12. So they are equally proportioned and at the center. So I'll group them. Just be watching what's happening on this layer. I can rename this by double clicking and say menu icon. Now all these are in the frame apart from this image. That means when I'm exporting both the frame and the image. So I'll place it somewhere here. I'll hold Alt and drag out. I'll hold Alt or Option and drag out depending on what you're using. And I'm going to do something. I'm going to ungroup this. For me to ungroup it, I'll use Control Shift G, or I'll right click and I'll see group okay, we have group selection, we have ungroup, right? So Control Shift G is the shortcut, or if you click on group and they are ungrouped, and we can delete this, we don't need it. Select this and move it in. So let me move it on top. So you can always, if it's at the back, you can right click and say bring forward or bring to front. Now I will select both, and I will use this alignment options to make sure they are at the center. So if you look at that, holding down your option key, you see the same 12, 12, 12, 12 everywhere. So I'll group, then that will be that. Then I want to type, I'll just click T on my keyboard and I'll have the text to come up. Now I typed home. I'll be using 16. Then I'll be changing the font's weight to bold, and I'll be aligning to the center of the frame. So we have this now. We have this and we have this. So we want all of them to be at the center. Use the vertical align, and yeah, we are getting something similar. Now we want to create this search bar. So for you to create the search bar, you have to create a rectangle. I press the R on my keyboard and got something, and the rectangle came out. Now with this selected, I will just tap I. So that eyedropper tool, clicking I on your keyboard will bring it up. So as I clicked I, you see something like this. So any color that you are sampling is showing there. So I'll sample this color and I'll pick it. Now I'll use the same 10 I used earlier. Yeah. So if you look deep, you see that this has a border around it. So I'll use the same border here, or I'll get the border here. So once you click this, you see all the colors that you selected here. So I'm using E9. So I'll just apply the same border to this. E9. Just type E9 and it's enough. So in as much as they are repeating each other, and click enter or return. So you have that same border here. Now with this, you can select this element. You see is at the back, the search bar, the search icon, you select and bring to front. Yeah, so it's at the front. Then you type again, you type search. I click T on my keyboard and go to search. Let me change this to regular and probably change the color to this and work around this. And as I said, I like working and teaching. So as I'm doing this, I hope you are getting something on. If you have any question, you can just throw it up on the chat box so that we can take them together. So I'll group these both elements together and I'll move over to the next one. So let's say you want to create this card, start new fundraising. So you can create this card. Now I've not, remember, if you can notice, I've not talked about my distancing. I'm using my eye to set them right now, but I'm going to show you guys how I'm doing it. I'm going to show how I'm doing it and how easy it can be for you to use it, as it can show you how. Yeah, I know we are running out of time. It's less than 8 minutes, so I'm going to rush this a little. So I'm going to click I on my keyboard again. clicking I, brings up the eyedropper, I will get this color. So you don't have to, if you have any app that you know that the color is beautiful, you don't have to start thinking of how to get the color. With the eyedropper tool, every color is at your beck and call. So I'll use 10 again to give it the border radius. We need more, so I'll use 20. I think this is that better. I'll type, so T on my keyboard, and I'll type start new. Let me use donation. Now the contrast is not good. Someone that has eye issues cannot read this. So you have to make it a light color on a dark background or a dark color on a light background, just like we did for this search. And this we should do it. So let's select this, say white on this. Now there's something that I'm doing. I'm clicking this box to move it around. Now we have the line height set to auto, letter spacing 0%, font size 16, font weight regular, font I'm using is Roboto. So I'm using, you see that I'm using one single font for this particular design, which is what this person did. Now there's a button inside. You can create your button in so many ways. We have the group, we have the frame, we have the auto layout. So can you show us how that was grouped once again? Yes. I'm going to show you right away. So we are going to create a button with a group. So I'll click R on my keyboard. I'll select the size of the button that I want. 48 is good enough. I'll make it white. I will change the border radius to 10. Then I'll type start now, and I'll reduce the font to 14, and I'll increase the font weight to medium. Now I'll select both the start now text and the box, and I'll align it to the center vertically and horizontally, right? So once I align it, I will group them. So if you want to group, you can group in two ways. You can right click and say group selection, or you can do Command G or Control G on your keyboard and you group. So it's already a group. Look at it here. It's a group. So I can rename this to be start button. So I will now align this button to this element. I'll align everything to the center so they will look aesthetically pleasing. Sorry, not. You see what happened? I used horizontal centers instead of vertical center, aligning to the vertical center. So I can move this selector. Yep. So you notice that there's more space in this particular between this particular text than in mine, and that is what the line height does. So this is auto. I can just increase this to, let's say, 24, so that there's more space, and maybe make this bold and make this 18, and yeah, drag this out. Select both and make it yeah, vertically aligned. So this is for this, and let me now go through this. So I'm going to group this, Control G, select all of them and do Control G. So I want all of them to have the same distance between them. So there's a tidy up button that used to come out here once you select things more than 3 and they are scattered. So if I click this, they will have the same distance between them, and those distance is 33. So they have 33 space pixel space in between them. So I'll just set them as 24. So the distance between them is the same. So this start is outside the group. Oh, I've not grouped them. So I have this this, and this. I'll align vertically and I'll group. So this they are all 24 now. So you see that this is looking like the same application, apart from the fact that this has a curve and this doesn't. Our time is remaining 2 minutes. Let me see the charts. Let me look at the charts, see questions. What's the difference between a group and a frame? Okay, so group and a frame. So the difference is this. Group is frames. When you add things to a frame, it's easier to add things to a frame than to a group. How do I mean? We have less than a minute, so we're going to end this call and we're going to join back. Well, joining back, we're going to be very brief with this particular because we've taken a lot of time. So we're going to spend less than 10 minutes and we are off. So let's join back, please, for 10 minutes more. Or using Alt or options to drag it out, or even using Control D, you can duplicate with Control D. So let me convert it to a frame. I'll right click and select frame selection. Now we have this as a frame and we have this as a group. Inside this frame we have a group, so I'm going to remove this group, so it's just a frame. Now the difference between these two, they are the same elements inside, but they are different things. Now let me say this icon I have here, let me bring it out. I want to add it to this frame, right? If I just click this and move it in, it gets into this frame directly. Look at it. It's now into this frame. So once I'm moving this, I'm moving them together. So frame helps you to work with constraints. So if you look at this, if you select this, you are having, if you select any element inside this frame, you're having this constraint. You can constrain to the left, to the right, to the left and right, to the center, and you can scale. It is not the same for group. You can constrain for group, yeah, but you can't add directly to a group. So let's say I want to add, just like I did here, I just carried this and dropped it into the frame and it got added immediately. But for group is different. I have to move it in here. So if I move this, you see that it is not inside this particular selection. So that's a major difference. Another difference is working with components. So later in your career, you not later actually, very soon, you start working with components, and working with frames makes it easier for you to work with components. Also, auto layouts are created in frames, so they make your work easier. You can see that this is a frame that you're adding all these particular things inside. So this is basically the difference between both. I hope I answered the question, please, and it's understood. Also, someone is saying to do the add-on in Figma, do we have to upgrade? No. It's only you can get it on a free account. Okay, so I think let's just rush through completing this first one while explaining our process in the process. Now we're going to get 4 icons that we are going to need. So we need this icon, we need this icon, we need this icon, we need this icon. Let's get something as similar to that. Iconify. Let's get doctor let's say medical. So doctor, let's get something like this. Import this icon. Let's get education. Let's do something like this. So let's do something like this. Disaster. Let's just say fire. Let's use caution. Let's search caution. Then the last icon is others. Let's use this icon for others. Let's say dashboard. So we have our 4 icons right here. So let's separate them. You have this, you have this, you have this, and you have this little one. So let's do the same constraint type 24. Let's make sure all of them are 24, 24. So one is 20. So we'll constrain and make it 24.
It said 4.5, but
Hello, are you talking
I
to me?
think 4 is better.
Okay, so we have these icons already. So we're going to just create the smaller boxes to have them in. So let's say the boxes will be, as we chose this to be 48, let's make this 48 too. 48. Make sure that for icons and their boxes, the width and the height remain the same, right? So, and make sure that the icons are in frames. That's another thing. Make sure that they are in frames and they are the same. So some of you may be tempted to click inside and remove it from the frames, because working with frames may be a little bit difficult, but don't key into that temptation. It will make your work untidy, right? So I think after this icon, we'll close up for the day. But I think we've taken a lot of time, more than planned. So I said 10 minutes into the call and we're almost there. So let's just do the same thing that we did here, bring to front. We'll change the color, press our I, get this color, and you see that this field is locked. It's locked out. So you go to this selection, you click it, and get this eyedropper and pick this color. Let's do the same for this. Pick this color and select both and group them together. So you have for this. Then let's bring out the rectangle. Ctrl+C+V, both of them are in the group. So I can just bring it out of the group. Yeah. And bring this on top. So this is at the back. I can just bring it to the front. Click this and select this color. Drag out this, drag it out again. So I believe we already know, I've already explained what I'm doing here. So I'm just going through them. If you have any question at any point, you can ask. So I'm bringing them to the front and aligning them. So I'm going to just change the colors. by clicking here. This should be red. Let me select, or pink. Yeah, I think it's pink. Now select this and change it to green. Now I'll align them. Center, center, group. Center, center, group. Vertical center, horizontal center, group. Now I want them to be aligned. So this, and this, if you look, they are aligned at the same point. So they're in the same line. And I want this to be the same. So this should be aligned here. So this, and this should be aligned. Now these ones at the center should take the same distance between them. So selecting all, I'll just click vertical align, and you can use this to tidy it up and make sure that they have the same distance between them. So basically, you write the names, medical. Let's reduce this to 14 and change this to regular. You say education. So you can find a way to apply this to your designs, right? If you need to make any changes, you can really. So I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is how to create pages in your design. There are so many things to learn. As you are using Figma, the more you're going to learn them. So you can start by aligning this group, aligning this group, aligning this group, aligning this, and grouping. Now let's change the distance between them. Yeah, so you basically have this, and you can group them and have this to have the same distance, 24, in between them. So they are looking proper and very neat. So this is how you can do your designs and make them to be easier to understand. Now, there's another thing that can help you, but before then, let's create a page. So if you want to create a page, let's say you want people to see different things. Let's say you can call this design wireframe. If it's not actually a wireframe, but let's say it's a wireframe. You can add another page here by clicking this add new page plus icon, and you can say design. It gets you entirely empty canvas to work with. You can say another one, develop, or you say final drafts. You can say iteration 1, iteration 2, wherever. You can get and start working here too, right? So this is also there. You can also, there's a way to make your designs look structured. So there's something you call a layer grid, right? So if you click on this layer grid, you see a grid point. So you see, look at it gives you a grid on how your design can be straightened. So you can use column. In fact, basically you advise to use columns. You can select let's say four columns, and you want your width to be your margin. So the distance I gave here, you want it to be let's say, want it to be 20, or it's smaller than 20. Let's say you want to be 24, 28, 30. So let's say you want it to be 30, right? So with this, you have this grid. So everything you are doing, you make sure you're moving it to this grid, moving this to this grid, moving this to this grid, and what have you. So same goes to this particular one, move it to this grid, and you look at the line that will come out there. You move this to this grid. Same. So it makes your work to be aligned, makes your work to look professional, makes you look good whenever you're working, and makes your work to stand out. So I believe this is the basics that we can talk about today. We can also do this some other time. When we have more time, we'll talk about any other thing that is confusing us about that. I think the task 7 will be talked about later. We've already shared the score. Charles.
Yeah, it will be discussed later. Because we're running out of time. For those who've submitted, we will try to set up personal hours or minutes or meetings with you guys to, have a more closer discussion about your design and areas you need to improve upon. Okay, like I said before, a lot of practice is required on your part, a lot of copying because you're starting out. Okay, so go to Dribble, go to Behance, get designs regarding donation that other people have come up with, look at them, compare them with elements that you have in your own design. If you have buttons on your designs, if you have text fields on your design, look at how they've been designed on the examples that you're going to get from Dribble or Behance and replicate them as they are on your own design. And it's all part of the practice. And then with time, you build up your skill on using Figma. Okay, so yeah, that's that for week 6.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. Also, another thing I want to say is this. I'm going to be making this file. I'm going to be sharing it on the group, so you can just duplicate it and look at what we did and study it carefully. The ones I duplicated just now. So I'm going to be completing the front page of their homepage. So you just look at it. It's just one page, and see what I was just saying, the groups, the frames, and every other thing. And you can learn from that.
All right, I guess that's it. Apologies again for having to leave and come back and leave and come back. We'll fix that for our next office hours. So thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you on Slack.
Thank you.